Maybe Marc-Antoine, you want to react to what has been said?
I can maybe add a little bit. Yes, thank you so much, Valérie. Yeah, I think fully agree. The COP latest Baku meeting showed that I mean the parties are very, very far from one another. But nonetheless, and I think Majdi alluded to that, but also Jean, I mean, there is a clear number of things everyone can do without coming to an agreement over what trajectory we will have and what cooperation mechanism, etc., we will have. And I mean, we are talking about emergencies, and what can we do in an emergency? It's clearly to address the issue of fugitive methane emissions. And here, I mean, frankly, Igor, I'm sure you will agree, but I mean, Russia can do a lot in this field. And
when it gets out of the loop, which itself get into with Ukraine, yeah. After that, yes, we can do a lot.
Yeah, but even, I mean, the sooner the better. I mean, but for both. Now, frankly, I'm pleased that Majdi raised this fundamental issue. Because yes, natural gas will see a continued increase in demand, that's for sure. It's very flexible, etc. But in order to really improve the emission footprint versus coal, and to really empower the renewables, I mean, we have to do more on the fugitive methane emission side. And there is clear leaders, there is clear coalitions that are being built, but there are still many parts of the world that are excluded from this. Not because they are not around the table, it's simply because, obviously, this hasn't reached to them. So maybe the BRICS, maybe the SHOS could also take this on board. And even China is moving on addressing the issue of coal bed methane emission. So there's progress there, but here in the region, Iran, in Africa, in Nigeria, a lot of flaring still in Africa. So that should be addressed in emergency. And by the way, as you know, the fugitive methane emissions, they are not only from the energy sector, they are also from the waste sector and, of course, from the agricultural sector. And that leads me to my second point on voluntary carbon markets. I mean, clearly these voluntary carbon markets, they were an issue at COP in Baku, and we have seen some progress, which I mean, it's been disputed, but nonetheless, it's good, it moves forward. And my point is the following. I mean, the most clearest, efficient, in my view, voluntary carbon market is, for example, related to, reducing the methane emissions from landfills. Because this you can really account. You know that most of these emissions come from developing countries because they have these landfills, etc. And you know that there is no way to basically address this problem because there's no money there. So that is clearly, I think, an area where we should have efficient voluntary carbon markets that reduce the fugitive methane emissions from these areas, and we can account for that. There's no dispute about whether the trees grow or not, or whether they will burn or not, etc. I mean, this is all measurable. Second aspect of these voluntary carbon markets, and to make the bridge also about the point on energy access and clean cooking, actually. I mean, here as well, clean cooking, we know how much wood and biomass is being burnt. We know what are the solutions, what are the costs, what are the business model to bringing the solutions to improve clean cooking, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. And again here, the voluntary carbon markets could really step in. Another point maybe to add to the discussion relates to the rollout of renewables. We've seen and we've heard, and Igor also alluded to that. I mean, the Chinese are really empowering the world with that, that's for sure. Now, everywhere in the world, what you now see, and we have the problems in the north, but in the south it's even more dire, is the problem of grids, right? So the underinvestment into grids is absolutely dramatic. So what would be fantastic is that, the BRICS Development Bank, the European Union's development support, whatever's left from the United States, etc., everything now should be further focused into supporting, you know, with loans and various types of finance solutions, these grid modernization and expansion projects in the emerging world. I think these are low-hanging fruits. Often these companies are, you know, financially weak, if not almost bankrupt, and, you know, just bailed out on a year-to-year basis by their governments. And really that would make a huge difference, because the solar PV technology is there, the manufacturing capacity is there, it's diversified. By the way, it's no more only China. We've heard yesterday that it's expanding in India, etc. So, but the bottleneck is really with the grids, and so and for gas to play its backup role, by the way, you will also need the grid as well. Voilà, so a couple of points just for my side, and the last word is, I mean, yeah, I really regret that in the global governments, the fight against coal has been so weakened, and that is so we do a few steps forward, but that is a major step back.
Thank you, Marc-Antoine. Please, sir.
Oui, Jean Cavazoué, who is in this room believes that there is 1% chance that we'll have zero emission in 25 years from now? Is there anybody who believes that? So let's be serious. Don't make scenario which goes backward, and try to make scenario which goes forward, knowing the existing technology, the existing demand, and try to fight these beliefs. There's no chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Igor,
just
yes.
one word to this.
Yeah.
In 2030, United Nations will reconsider the goals, the 17 goals of sustainable development. And yes, they will take into consideration that we're far behind 1.50 compared to the industrialization. But that doesn't matter that we should put ourselves in ambitious goals, right?
Just to follow up on what you mentioned, Marc-Antoine, the fight against coal. I'm just back from 3 days at the UN ESCAP in Bangkok on the region. It was a gathering of all regional commission, and there was representatives from the Asian Development Bank, and it was clearly said, we come to a point where, for example, Indonesia, all these countries that are using a lot of coal, we don't have the tool to advise them how to switch from coal to gas. We don't simply have the tool from a financial point of view. We have the international, and it was said like this, we have the international pressure not to invest in fossil fuels, which means gas for the time being. So what do? And it's clearly said that they come to a point that the fight is, yes, they admit, come to a point, when do? So you put some ammonia, you put some things, but okay, the fight is very low. Yes, Nicolas.
And just to add very quickly on what you said, Valérie, you know, we need to look at the very practical things here. Just replacing coal with gas is not just saying, okay, we replace one plant with another. It's a whole logistics. The places where the ports, the coal ports are not the same ones as where the gas regasification are. The gas system is not in place. I mean, typically we had a big power plant where there was an NG in Indonesia, central to the power system, 1.4 gigawatt. You cannot bring that plant down, or you bring the system down. There is no way you bring gas to that plant. So of course you could say, I close this plant and I build it somewhere else. But you do need to build it in a place where it is convenient for the system, where this current coal plant is located. So the logistical aspect is very critical.
And I would add the workforce and the people and the local people that work in this sector, from the coal to the other one. How do you switch from this? Nothing is done. And I would say the international community is facing huge problem. And it was clearly said, ASEAN, in all the ASEAN meetings, we come to this fact that, yes, we are facing huge difficulties. Please, sir, and then we move to the next, you two. Yes, sir.
Yes, just A question actually, where the indication that the fight on coal was not as with an impulse as was hoped, when was that actually considered? I mean, is there a precise moment? I'm sorry, I don't know that.
We actually saw it at COP28 in Dubai and again in COP29 in Baku. Huh? And it is related to India, and India is not alone. And many are happy India goes to oppose that, because so they can hide behind India and don't have to show their flag. With this bad news for the environment. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Sir,
thank you.
please.
So that's another way of addressing Jean's remark, but I have a question maybe to the scientists, to the academics at this panel. Elon Musk said that within 50 years there would be two reasons fossil fuels are needed. It is military and for launching rockets. All the rest can be renewables. What do you think of this stance, and is this a way to address the transition?
Who dares? Majdi?
I heard scientists and academics, so I'm
Okay,
none of them. But I can give my point of view, but I'm not.
Try to
none
say
of-
something.
No, I think that, like we said, it's a global issue. So saying that in 10, 15 years or in 2050 we're going to don't need, or we're going to find the solutions, or technical solutions, or whatever, I don't know. I really don't know. We thought that we're going to have the oil peak or the peak oil very quickly. Now we're seeing that even the AEA is saying it's going to take time. We saw at COP29 that it is not that easy, that we have a huge issue about money, about greed, about many, many things. So it's very hard to say that in 2050 we won't need any more oil or any more gas, and that everything, even hard to abate industries, are going to use renewable. Honestly, I don't know. I think that we have to be precautious to prepare what we can and act on what we can do, what we know. Now we know that, if with some caveat, we know that gas produce less emissions than coal, that it is the energy of transition, so we should push it and help to develop it so we can avoid more emissions. We know that CCS and CCUS can help also to have less emissions. We have to work on emissions, I think, more than the best mix, future best mix. No oil at all, no gas at all. I don't know, because I don't know how we're going to do it.
How do you answer to the practicalities that were referred to? I mean, it's not the same port, it's not the same network, you don't have the pipes, etc. And so it looks as though we are extremely far from the transition. I mean, yeah, maybe there is a transition energy that is disposable, but we don't really know how to use it, if I understand it right.
I think that if we want to develop it, we can build. We can have liquefaction industry. We can have boats. FSRU. We can have. Yeah, there are some solutions for developing gas. This is. I don't think it is the issue. Of course, you cannot develop it everywhere. Of course, it is also an economic matter. If gas is cheaper than coal at one moment, and we're going to have lots of LNG coming in the world, maybe it's a way also to avoid coal. I don't know.
You can play on the growth of the need on new projects. It's what is happening in India and in China. You do not replace coal power plants by gas power plants. But since the needs are growing fast, you can ensure the growth by new gas-fired station. I think it's one possibility of answering your question.
Yes, Mr. Chalmin.
Just a question, which is a question of price. Don't you think that the problem with natural gas is that it has become a commodity? That is, more, you have less, I think, less and less contracts with fixed price, more and more spot prices. And I was very surprised because years ago I thought with the development of FSRU, many countries, developing countries, could switch from a coal power station to gas thanks to a small FSRU. And many people told me, well, it's impossible because, well, coal prices are unstable, but, well, we manage it with natural gas prices, which are highly unstable. Look at what's happened now. We are around $15 per million BTU, where we were at, what, 5 or 6 months ago. So don't you think that the problem is with you, I mean the producer of LNG, not to go back to long-term fixed price contracts?
So I propose, Jean, you answer, and then we have 2 lawyers in the room. So we move to Jeffrey and then to Tomás. All right? Good.
I'm going to speak under the control. No, I think the question you raise, it's a very vast question, and there are many aspects behind that. So historically, the price of gas was linked with the price of oil for a lot of reasons we know. And because the gas market was under development, the main competitor was oil, and that there was a risk-sharing mechanism between producer and consumer. The consumer took the risk of the market, and the producer took the risk of price, so they had to make sure that at any time the gas could compete with oil. Today, you are right, it's no longer the case. There are still historical contracts based on oil, but now I think that between 30 and 40% of the gas market is spot. So you have a gas market with a price in Europe, a gas market with a price in Asia, and a gas market with a price in the US. Asia and Europe are correlated with each other. It's more or less the same price, unless there is a crisis. And US is much lower. The prices are much lower than the prices in Asia and in Europe. And we could also debate that because it gives US a huge competitive advantage for their industry. But it's another story. So today we have a gas market which is efficient. When the Ukrainian crisis happened in 2022, I read everywhere in the newspaper that the LNG market, the US made a huge amount of money, the prices were much higher than the Russian price. That's true. But without this LNG market, there would be no price at all and no gas at all in Europe. So there would be a huge market shock in Europe, which didn't happen because of the flexibility of the market and because today we have a real price, gas prices indicator, which is efficient. The challenge is how do you finance the new project without long-term commitments? And the answer to that could be that when you build a car industry, a car factory, you do not sell long-term for 20 years the production of your factory. So with the gas, it could be the same. The bankers, the private equity fund, and the consumer and the producer could take the risk of the market, but as we said, it takes more equity and less project finance.
Thank you, Jean. Sir, I propose you keep your question after the presentation of Jeffrey.